Hello viewers, welcome to this series of video lectures on electrostatics, magnetostatics and electrodynamics. I am Dr. Rajesh Kumar Thakur, Department of Science, Bhopal School of Social Sciences, Bhopal. The today's topic of discussion is Gauss's law and its applications. The various subtopics we shall be covering here are concept of area vector and electric flux, Gauss's law and Gaussian surfaces, the various application of Gauss's law, including expressions for the point charge, electric field due to point charge, charged insulating spheres, uniformly charged wire, that will be followed by certain exercises. Initially, let's start what the electric flux is. In order to better understand Gauss's law, we should have the knowledge of electric flux. Electric flux basically quantifies the number of electric field lines which are passing through any surface normally. What I mean to say, the surface that should be held normal to the direction of the electric field lines. In the previous lectures, we have talked about the electric field lines. These are the lines of forces which exist in the surrounding of any charge. They comes out from a positive charge, they enters into a negative charge. And whenever these electric lines of forces, they pass through any surface, that basically quantifies the electric flux. Or in another ways, we can say that electric flux is a basically measurement of the number of electric lines of forces passing through any surface. Mathematically, electric flux can be calculated as a product of electric field strength and the area vector, or magnitude of the area vector. Phi E, that is equal to the product of electric field intensity and the surface area vector magnitude. The SI units of the electric flux are Newton per coulomb, which are the units of electric field, and it is followed by meter square. Basically, Newton per coulomb, meter square are the units of electric flux. As I have told to you that electric flux varies in direct proportion with the number of electric field lines which are passing through any surface. As in the definition of the electric flux, I have told to you that the surface area that should be held normal to the direction of the electric field. What I mean to say is the direction of the orientation of the area, that is very important. If the area vector lies along the direction of the electric field, then electric flux will be maximum. But if the area vector that is held with certain different angle with the direction of electric field, then the number of electric lines of forces passing through that area will be different. For this, we need to understand the concept of area vector. The area vector of any surface area is always taken just normal to the surface, directed outward. Here in this diagram, you can see that we have taken an object of irregular shape, and at three different locations we have taken three different areas which will have their orientations different. As I have told to you in the definition of area vector, it is a direction normal to the surface of that area. So here it is directly along this direction, making angle θ1 with the direction of electric field. Here it is making angle θ2 with the direction of electric field, and here it is making an angle θ3 with the direction of the electric field E3 at that point. Since the direction of the area vector is important here, so in order to make the exact measurement of the electric flux, we can find out it as dot product of electric field intensity vector and surface area vector. The electric flux can be varied by three ways: by changing the strength of electric field, by changing the magnitude of the area, and another thing is orientation of the area vector with respect to the electric field. That is what the angle in between the electric field and area vector. Now I hope that you are better familiar with the concept of electric flux, which basically quantify the number of electric lines of forces which are passing through any surface. Now comes to the Gauss's law. Gauss's law basically defines the number of electric lines of forces passing through any surface. According to Gauss's law, the number of electric lines of forces passing through any surface is always equal to 1 upon epsilon naught times the charge which is enclosed within that surface. The one thing which we can measure with the help of Gauss's law is what electric flux, or beside this we can make the measurement of the electric field which is produced by various charges or charge distribution, especially symmetric charge distributions like a point charge, a charged sphere, both conducting or insulating, or we can have a linear charge distribution over a wire. For this, we need to understand the concept of Gaussian surface. See, whenever we are implementing Gauss's law to calculate the electric field due to any symmetric charge distribution, as I have suggested before, then we need to surround that basically that charge or charge distribution with the help of a surface, so that that surface can enclose every lines of forces which is coming out from the charge distribution. And that surface is known as what? Gaussian surface. See, in the first diagram, we are having a charge distribution shown by a red sphere at the center, and there are three different surfaces S1, S2 and S3 which are representing the Gaussian surfaces. They include every electric lines of forces which are coming out from that charged sphere which is kept at the center of these surfaces. In the second case, since the taken surface, which is blue in color, that do not encloses every electric lines of forces coming out from the charge Q. Therefore, it cannot be a Gaussian surface. Now let's start with the application of the Gauss's law, that I have told you that by using Gauss's law we can find out the magnitude of the electric field produced by different symmetric charge distributions. We are here starting with with a point charge which is kept at the center of the Gaussian surface. See, by using Gauss's law we can calculate the electric field by using the various steps. Like initially we need to consider a Gaussian surface which will surround that charge or charge distribution. Second, we will calculate the strength of the electric field at any point on the Gaussian surface, and then by applying the mathematical equations of Gauss's law, which is the surface integral of the electric field is equal to 1 upon epsilon naught times the charge enclosed, we can calculate the electric field. Here we are starting with a spherical charge distribution. We have taken a point sphere, dimensionally very small charged sphere, and in the surrounding of that we are having a Gaussian surface which you can see in the figure, that is blue colored, that is bluish colored. By using Gauss's law we can find out the electric flux, which is equal to the surface integral of the electric field. And then since electric field on the Gaussian surface at any point will have fixed magnitude, we can take it outside the integral. Then the integral of this surface area, that is the dot product, is also operated. We are having here cos of theta. Since on the Gaussian surface, the direction of the area vector, I have told to you that area vector is always directed normal to the surface of the Gaussian surface of the charged body or Gaussian surface. And here it is having same direction as that of electric field. So the angle between these two, electric field and area vector, will be equal to 0 degree, and cos 0 equals to 1. And the surface area of the Gaussian surface, that is it is spherical in shape, it will have surface area 4 pi r square. In this way we can calculate the electric flux, which comes out to be electric field times the surface area of that sphere. Now by using that Gauss's theorem, ultimately we can find out the electric field which is produced due to this point charge at a certain distance on the surface of the Gaussian surface, and that comes out to be E equals to Q upon 4 pi epsilon naught r square, and 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught that can be replaced by a constant K. From this expression we can conclude that the electric field due to a point charge varies inversely as a square of the distance of the point of observation from the charge. And this we can do with the help of a Gauss's law or theorem. Now, after the calculation of the electric field due to a point charge by using the concept of Gauss's law, we are moving to find out the electric field which are produced by a spherical distribution of charge at different locations. For that we can assume a insulating sphere on which within which the charge can be distributed throughout its volume. Here in the figure you can see the charges, they are increased within the Gaussian surface, and as we will move from the center of the Gaussian surface, there you can find a lot of charges. As we will move from the center of the surface, center of this Gaussian surface towards the surface, what happens basically, the amount of charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface, that is increasing. So when moving from a center toward the surface, we can find that the electric field will also increase, because as per Gauss's law, electric field, the surface integral of electric field, that is directly proportional to or equal to 1 upon epsilon naught times the charge enclosed. Since the charge within this surface is increasing, that's why the strength of the electric field will also increase as we will move away from this center towards the surface. And we can find out the maximum value of the electric field on the surface, that is corresponding to the distance equal to the radius of this Gaussian surface. And in order to find out the electric field somewhere outside this charge distribution, we can again assume a Gaussian surface like this, and we can calculate the electric field expression by taking a small surface area over here, as we have done in case of a point charge. And in this way, at this point, we can find out the electric field, which will be very much similar to the electric field expression obtained for a point charge, and that will be equal to this. See what we observe from these calculations. As we are moving away from the center of the charged insulating sphere, the electric field strength, that is increasing from center toward the surface, and on the surface there exists a very high or maximum value of the electric field. And when we move away from this charged insulating sphere, then outside again the electric field strength or intensity, that is decreasing as a function of r square. It is inversely proportional to r square, and this expression is very much similar to the expression of electric field intensity due to a point charge. We can conclude that a charged insulating sphere, or expression for the electric field due to a charged insulating sphere, is very much similar to the expression for the electric field due to a point charge outside the sphere, outside that sphere. Graphically, we can also have analysis of the strength of the electric field, as symbolically you can say here insulating charge sphere. When we are calculating the electric field within the sphere, then you can find out this reason, that the electric field is increasing with increase in r. Then at a certain point, when this small r that equates capital R, which is what the radius of the sphere, then the electric field intensity that starts decreasing inversely proportional to r square. You can find it here, that we have discussed in the previous slide also. Now let's come to another application, that is what calculation of the electric field due to a thin spherical shell. You know, spherical shell is empty from inside, and charge can only be distributed on its surface, which you can see here. Since there is no charge enclosed within this charged spherical shell, as it is empty from inside, the electric field will be equal to 0, and that we will prove with the help of Gauss's law. As you can see here, we are having this is a spherical shell on which we are having a positive charge is distributed over it. If a Gaussian surface is chosen inside this spherical shell, then what will happen? Since this Gaussian surface encloses no charge, as all the charges they are distributed on the surface, therefore the electric field strength within this shell will be equal to 0 till we reaches the surface, and it will have electric field strength maximum on its surface. And if we will find out the expression for the electric field somewhere outside, and that we can do by drawing a Gaussian surface over here, we will see that both the area vector and electric field vector, they will have same directions, and ultimately by using the same expressions of Gauss's law, we can find out the direction of electric field, which will comes out to be 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught times q upon r square. Now let's come to the last application of the Gauss's law, that is distribution of charges over a wire. We have taken a uniformly charged wire with linear charge density lambda, that is lambda is equal to total charge distributed over this wire divided by the length of the wire. And this cylindrical surface again represents a Gaussian surface. On this Gaussian surface, we have taken a small area. Direction of area vector, again it is found parallel to the direction of the electric field intensity Therefore, the theta, that is what angle in between these two, will be equal to 0. Then again, by applying the Gauss's law, that is what surface integral of the electric field, that equals to 1 upon epsilon naught times the charge enclosed, and charge over here will be equals to lambda times L upon epsilon naught. Then at the left hand side, we can integrate that electric field with respect to the surface area of that Gaussian surface, and we will have this expression of the electric field. Now, let's discuss some questions on the basis of Gauss's law and electric flux. Here in this very first questions, what we are given with, we are asked to calculate the electric flux through the closed areas A1 and A2. See, and second part is also there in where we are asked to calculate the electric flux through the cube. See, from the definition of Gauss's law, the electric flux, or from the definition of the electric flux basically quantify the number of electric field lines crossing through any surface due to a charge enclosed by that surface. Since here the surface A1 encloses a certain charge Q at its center, and it will have certain value of electric flux that we can find out by using the Gauss's law. And since the surface A2, that is not enclosing any charge inside it, the charge inside this surface is 0. Therefore, the electric flux linked with the surface A2 will also be equal to 0. And in the second figure, the total charge enclosed by this cube is plus 5Q minus 2Q, that is what net plus 3Q charge is enclosed, and therefore the flux will be equal to 3Q upon epsilon naught. Since this charge minus 10Q is not enclosed by this cube, it is outside this cube, therefore it will not contribute for the electric flux through this cube. Let's come to the second questions, where we have to find out what we are given with is, we are given with infinitely long, very thin metal tube with radius 2.9 centimeter, as shown in the figure below. If the linear charge density of the cylinder is 1.5 into 10 to the minus 8 coulomb per meter, then what is the approximate magnitude of the electric field at the radial distance r equals to 2r? This is very simple questions, and we can solve by using the expression, that is what electric field which is produced by a linear charge distribution, as we are having a positively charged wire over here, and we have an expression lambda upon 2 pi epsilon naught r. Here we are given with this value of lambda, that is 1.5 into 10 raised to power minus 8 coulomb per meter, as it is charge distributed per unit length, and the r is also given, that is twice of capital R, that is what the radius of this cylindrical Gaussian surface. And by using this formula we can calculate the electric field also. Thank you very much for watching the video.